Hi there. Welcome back to another edition of Wrestling from the Vault. Today, I want to try something a little bit different. I was toying with this idea of having one wrestler and then just naming five matches that I like of theirs. There's like five of my favorite matches, not in any necessarily in any order, although I have done these in chronological order. Uh, but they are. They're not necessarily underrated matches either. They're just five matches which I really like to watch over and over again. And the first wrestler I come up with was Curt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, who was my favorite wrestler when I was a kid. He was my guy, the first number one guy that you get into. I just loved him. There was no one else like him around at the time that I could see anyway. We didn't have access to everything. Um, but yeah, and he's my intercontinental champion as well. You know, he's that guy who holds the title, whatever title it is, but he's the first one that you recognize having that title. And it felt like he held it for years and years, but I mean, it was barely a year, I think, that he held it within two separate reigns. But he was my guy. So the first match is from the AWA. So before he was perfect, um, and it was a title match, AWA title match against the champion Nick Bockwinkel. Seriously underrated wrestler, I think nowadays. I think nobody talks about him enough. I don't know whether it's because there's not as much video of him now, but when he wrestled this match, he was definitely in the twilight of his career, but he could still make it happen. He was here to his job was putting Kurt Hennig over in this match, and that's exactly what happened. It was a 60-minute time limit draw. Curt Hennig he was in the figure four at the end, and there's just blood pouring down his face, but he's not giving up. It was that kind of like blood red baby face kind of finish, which everyone got behind, and it was great. It's a slow burner, hour long match, slow burner, but you know, it wasn't what WWF fans were used to at the time, but a lot of the other promotions were doing that. And then when I finally saw it, I didn't see it until it was either the AWA DVD or the Mr. Perfect DVD. I can't remember, but I was just blown away when I saw it. Yeah, I loved that one. Next, we jump 4 years, I think, to Saturday night's main event. It's his first intercontinental title defense against Tito Santana, which ended up being a rematch from when he won the belt in the tournament. But this was great. This was Santana's job at the time, jobber to the stars kind of thing. But he was great at it. You never get disappointed with a Santana match around this time, especially when his job is to put people over, and people like Mr. Perfect, who he would give back as well. So it turned into a competitive back and forth match. Mr. Perfect won in the end, obviously, but the crowd were into it. They wanted Tito to win. He wins with like a reverse small package as well, which is a really great underrated finish. And next we're jumping forward to the early days of Monday Night Raw. Those classic early Raws in the Manhattan Center. Against, it's the classic match against Ric Flair. It's just an amazing loser leaves town match. You didn't know who was going to win at the time. I wasn't down with all the inside stuff back then. But I remember watching it because we didn't get Raw that much in those early days. But I think we saw like highlights of it on Superstars or Challenge or something. And so I didn't actually get to see the whole match until, years later on a DVD and that. But yeah, just blown away by it. We all know how great it is. So from there, also, around this time, I really thought that Mr. Perfect could have had a title run instead of Bret Hart. I don't think it was Bret Hart's time yet. I think it was a bit too early. I think Bret Hart winning the King of the Ring would have been the stepping stone to WrestleMania 10. But there was that little period in between where he made his comeback, and he could have been the one to beat Ric Flair for the title, and carry it forward for a few months. But anyway, so speaking of King of the Ring, that was where we go next to King of the Ring in the semi-finals, I think, versus Bret Hart. Now, I do think this is better than the SummerSlam 91 match, technically. But the SummerSlam 91 match has more emotion attached to it. But this one is so technically sound, it's amazing. And just got Jim Ross on commentary. Jim Ross has a standout commentary performance in this match. And he just gets so excited by the offensive exchanges, and just all of the moves are so crisp. And again, it ends in a reverse roll up, very underrated finish. I love that one. So next, it's I think his performance in the 2002 Royal Rumble. Now, the reason I like this so much is because he'd obviously been away in WCW for a while and come back, and he was fresh. He was fresh to some people in the WWF audience, but there was a lot of people watching this who clearly remember Mr. Perfect from back in the day, because he got a thunderous ovation when he came out. And he was put right in the middle of the main event scene. I think Kurt Angle was in there, Triple H. I think maybe Stone Cold was in there as well. I can't remember, but he was there, and he was putting the moves to Triple H, and the crowd were going nuts. I think he got to the final four. I think it's just a massive missed opportunity. He could have had a little run on top. I know he had personal problems at the time, and there's stuff going on backstage we didn't really know about. But yeah, just listen to that crowd. That's all you got to do. Right. That's it. That's 5 matches from Curt Hennig. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time.